The Nuclear Fuel Cycle Royal Commission report recommends a nuclear fuel storage facility to be implemented in South Australia. This facility has the potential to provide a significant income for South Australia. There are risks and uncertainties with this endeavour that still requires more research. This research requires further financial commitment by South Australia. Until this further research determines that the risks are acceptable, this project will remain at a preliminary stage. There is the possibility that further research may determine that this project is not viable. However, there is equally a chance that this project will be viable in the future and provide a significant income for South Australia. As a jury, there was a very diverse range of views. Some felt uncertain that there was sufficient detail in the economic modelling to feel comfortable progressing to the next step, which is changing legislation to enable further study.
Can you scroll down, Caro?
There are many questions still unanswered by the Royal Commission report. These include: what benefit can be made available to South Australia now and in future generations? How can we be sure that the economic analysis completed by the Royal Commission is robust? How will the South Australian brand or external reputation be affected? What reliance is there on other countries to pre-commit to storing high-level nuclear waste at a fixed price? How will the benefits be realised, and how will the wealth be distributed? Many of the citizens' jury members are still uncertain in the economic assumptions made by the Royal Commission. The general feeling is that whilst this is a first step, there are many more questions that must be answered before we will be comfortable progressing to the next phase. Over the next few years, there is a real opportunity for South Australians to increase their knowledge in the nuclear fuel cycle, including South Australia's current participation, and to better understand the potential benefits and risks. The jury suggests reading Appendix J, page 290, analysis of viability and economic impacts. If there is further interest, read chapter 5, page 73, Management, Storage and Disposal of Nuclear and Radioactive Waste. What does everyone need to discuss?
I think that's it, Patrick. That's where we kind of left with the document, that's not meant to be there. I was meant to cut and paste that bit.
No worries.
Okay, so there are a number of questions there that we can have a look at tomorrow. But in general, I'm interested in what you think about that. And how we're going to do this is the I can live with it activity. So this line is the I can live with it. Sorry, I can't live with it. Okay? Given what Patrick's just read to you, where do you stand on the line? Before you move, the red lanyard people need to be here. Okay? This is very, we're very clever. So red lanyard people need to be there. We want you to be a part of it. We were thinking of dropping and rolling on the floor. But, okay, so I can live with it, and I can't live with it. We'll talk in a minute. Let's go. Can we do page 1 and page 2? Can you put it onto one page? Okay, so go back to first page. Okay, can you live with it? Let's go. I can live with it, and I'm here, and I can't live with it. I'm over here. There's always one. Okay, we've got a Dolce. Oh, were you not in the room then? That's all right. Okay. All right, take a look. Oh, there's a couple on the line. It could be edited. Okay, let's not get distracted by the editing because, as you know, we've had a really challenging little while to come up with that. All right, okay. Sort of can live with it, sort of can't.
Why? Because there's still lots of questions I want to ask.
Okay, so it was a theme running through this economics thing about lots of questions. Are you comfortable to be there? I can't kind of nudge you over the hip and shoulder you over the line. Okay, right.
The scepticism which I thought I'd been put to the back of my mind has come forward a little bit, and and yet I'm hoping that that will be overcome by that side.
Okay. So can you live with it? Can you live with that going in? We might have a look at it tomorrow. Okay. All right. Can't live with it.
Just the last sentence that says, okay. Feel comfortable progressing to the next step, which is changing legislation to enable further study. Can't we study without changing legislation?
So, okay. Okay, so the wording might not be clear, but the understanding, who wants to tell us what they understand? Jenny? Who wants to, where are you, Patrick? You can talk, you got a microphone. So about the legislation?
That was with, I think, the fact that also you can't ask the other countries for how much they'd sell their uranium for. You can't actually, it's illegal to ask other countries what actually would you sell me, your uranium for. So I think that was the issue there, or one of the issues.
So the issue is that we can't actually start having those conversations until we change legislation which lets us have those conversations. So until we do that, we are still in the unknown land. So what would help you live with it?
Maybe I need to understand more about what the legislation is that's going to be changed.
I just think study is a little too general. If that's the aspect to enable further study, to me, if I was just the everyman reading that, I'd want more clarification on what study is. Is that digging holes to find, are we not allowed to further research? Or, if that's specific to international conversations or so forth, is there another way that we're able to explain that?
Okay, so a suggestion from someone? Is there a suggestion here, Nick?
Could study be changed to analysis or economic analysis or project analysis?
Or economic market research or market... It was about that. So it was not about digging holes. It was about being able to have conversations with the potential market. If we clarified that, could you live with it? Okay, so I'm wondering whether we might just pull someone in. Shane, a Royal Commissioner person too. Jordan, do you want to come?
Emily, I'm not sure it's exactly the same legislation, but we were discussing in ours. Section 13 allows public consultation of using state money for public consultation.
Yeah.
Whether public consultation includes the ability to talk to somebody in Japan or South Korea about this question would have to be clarified by somebody that knows the law as it's currently written. But there was an amendment made to the current law which doesn't allow us to have a nuclear waste facility, but does allow us to use public money in public consultation.
Yep.
But like I said, whether that includes overseas consultation as well as local, because we're part of the amendment. The reason we're existing is because that amendment went through this year.
Yeah, okay. So I'm seeing a huddle. So Mads, can you give us some clarity?
The answer is it's complex. So you're absolutely right that Section 13 places some limitations around what public money can be spent on, specifically in relation to a waste storage facility, so that legislation doesn't necessarily relate to other aspects of the Royal Commission's report. Now, it is, I guess, open to interpretation a little bit, like every bit of legislation, in relation to what work can be undertaken to support that community consultation. And I think, should we hear out of today a really strong theme about those questions that are needed to inform other members of the community, a case could be made for that work being undertaken now to inform future community conversations. That's something the government needs to take advice on from Crown and from other legal experts to determine whether this sort of framework provides that scope to undertake that further analysis. It is, and as I said, it's quite complex.
Maybe maybe the fact that we're mentioning legislation there is a problem. So if we don't get caught in the weeds of, sorry, if we're not getting caught in the weeds of exactly how further study and further investigation goes, right? Like, is it legislation? Is it this? Is it that? If that sentence were to say something more along the lines of, the jury feels comfortable with getting more information or doing more research, would that be enough? Okay, so let's make it less technical and more. Oh.
Sorry, can I just... And please, anyone in my group, clarify this for me. I think what we were saying there, from a legislation point of view, is actually getting or should I say, a better understanding of the commitment from customers, right? Understanding whether there was a market there versus, so we can't actually contact them or have them say that they're going to sell or pay for us to store their waste because of legislation.
Am
I
I
correct
think
in saying that?
yeah.
Is that what we were saying?
That's right.
Yeah.
So there was, what I heard
Yep.
from your group was there was a conversation that happened around, there's lots of unknowns. We can't resolve the unknowns until we're allowed to talk to other countries about this, and that's currently blocked by legislation. So just recognising that we can go a little bit further, but we actually need to unravel some things in order to get the clarity we need.
I think my comment in response to that would be, I think there's probably a sequencing dimension to that as well. So what needs to come first in that process to be confident that talking to potential partner nations, what needs to precede that? You know, and some would argue that community consensus around, as exactly what we're doing today, around what our response to the Royal Commission's report is in the first instance might be step number one, and there might be a series of things you need to do as part of that next body of work, next tranche of work. So I think for me the answer a little bit lies in how you sequence these questions a little bit and to when they may become more pertinent.
Okay, so I'm wondering if I've got a suggestion for you. Entirely inappropriate, but I'm going to have a go. So as a jury, there was a very diverse range of views. Some felt uncertain that there was sufficient detail in the economic modelling to feel comfortable progressing to the next step. Full stop. Can you live with that? If you can live with that, go over there. Righto. What's happened? Why'd you move? You're not meant to be moving. No.
I moved because I would, if I was reading that, which I am now, I would like some more information quantifying what the financial commitment by the state would be to undertake the necessary research, and what else would be impacted by channeling funds in the direction of that research. What then would that be taken away from?
Okay. Someone from the group want to talk about that? We did talk about that. Grab the mic.
What we discussed was, we did learn about it in economics from the witnesses. So they said you're looking at $300 to $600 million in the initial feasibility stage. Is that what they call it? Yeah, but we didn't put it in there because it's not actually in fact in the report. They're just making an estimate. So, and we were discussing it and assuming that's coming from taxpayers. It's not coming from the international parties. Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I would have liked something like that in there, but I don't know if we...
So that's probably something that needs to come out in the consultation. But the group were uncomfortable in putting it in just because it was not completely right and accurate.
But
So
can we put that it's in the millions or not?
Pardon?
Can we put it that it is hundreds of millions of dollars? It's not
No,
a dollar.
Well, nothing's been clarified. It was questioned within the group, and we all agreed that there is taxpayer money being spent right now. We're part of that, okay? So we know that. But what we were saying is we want to understand what that investment will be. Is it 300 million? Is it 600 million? How much is coming from the overseas investors to participate in that? How much is coming from the state? None of that's clear for us. So that's what we were trying to say. We need clarification on that spend. Yep. Correct. Yeah. We don't have the numbers, so...
Okay, can you live with not having the numbers at this point? It could be something that the next jury does. Half of you can. Okay, I don't know what to do with half of me. Why have you moved, Stan?
Sorry, maybe I'm being a little picky. Can we scroll down to the last sentence? It talks about the next step. What's the next step? I think if you ask that of 10 people, you'll get 10 different answers. So just because it's that ambiguous, I'm a little bit concerned about that wording.
Okay, have you got a suggestion? As a jury, there was a diverse range of views. Some felt uncertain that there was sufficient detail in the economic modelling to feel comfortable progressing to the next step. Statement.
It kind of goes to the motive of the question, right?
Yeah, okay.
So what is it that they're uncomfortable doing?
Okay,
Right.
some felt uncertain that there was sufficient detail in the economic modelling, full stop. There are many questions still unanswered. No? I don't want to...
It would read clearer if some felt that there was insufficient detail in the economic modelling. It would read more clearly if you took out uncertain and made it insufficient detail in the economic modelling.
Some felt that there was insufficient detail in the economic modelling to feel comfortable progressing to the next step. Okay. Are we living with it yet, Stan?
What's the next step?
So the next step is the questions. So you could make a link. So the next step, what the group because I was with this group all day, and I think they were saying these are the questions that are the next step.
It was suggested to remove the word next step to the next consultation process.
To the next consultation phase.
Next stage of consultation.
Stage of consultation.
You happy with it?
Okay, look at him. Oh my gosh, stop, look, don't move anyone. Okay, we're living with it. We can have another look at this in the morning, all right? Let's have another look at it in the morning. We need to look at this with the whole document. You're flying blind to some extent. All right, so we're comfortable. Let's leave that for now. Adam, can we go to the next page, which is...
Hang on a minute, are they going to remove that next step to the next, what did we say?
To the next consultation
phase.
I'll do it. It's public, it's on the camera. The next consultation phase. All right, so we up to consent. Who's speaking for consent? Grab a seat. Grab a seat. Who's our consent person? There's nobody.
You go there.
I can sit down to read it?
Do you want to
Okay, Jodie, off you go.
Okay, this was consent. To start off with, I just want to say it was quite difficult to design something to present to people on consensus, because that's probably what we're trying to get out of doing this whole process. So we found ourselves going off target a lot of the time, but when we got steered back, we had a few common things which are up here. So the topic is important because it's a large commitment statewide and the community opinion is valued. That was one thing we thought people needed to know. It is a huge commitment for South Australia. At the end, I can't remember who said it, but they said, change your stance. We want people to change their stance from apathy to engagement on this issue. Number two, what do we need to discuss and why? We need to discuss further how to educate the public and empower them. A lot of our themes were education, as you can see from this. Educate the public on how they can be involved. The community needs to have access to information on the fuel cycle as part of the educational process. having information, we need to have information available in multi-languages. The best consultation must be what works for the people being consulted, particularly Aboriginal landowners. It won't be rushed or pushed, and this must be clear to people from the start. However, we do need to be conscious that the economic opportunity is time sensitive. Any final decision must be transparent, clear, and easy to understand to the average person. Building trust is important. You can do this by going local. Make sure you're talking with people who might not necessarily be engaged. Use existing infrastructure, respect local knowledge. Don't assume one community speaks for another, and face-to-face engagement is important. Use interpreters and oral submissions and easy to understand language. We need to be inclusive with the consultations. And the next line I think should have been deleted. Need to come down to 3. So the questions that remain, how do we measure the consent? And how will the decision be made? How long is the process going to take? And when will a no answer be acceptable? We should say when or if. And how can I be involved? And that was it, I think. Those other things are just notes.
Then that's it?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so we'll take that bottom bit off just for the purposes of this.
Yeah, we ran out of time, so it's kind of
okay.
bits in there.
That's all right. So we can have another look at it. All right. So, Marcel.
The word when should be changed to if for that.
Yeah, that's what I just said, yeah.
Okay.
We ran out of time, so it's rough.
All right, so changing the word when to if. How long is the process going to take? And when will a yes or no answer be acceptable? Yeah, Emil, grab the mic.
Why is it time sensitive? Like if I'm reading this, why is it time sensitive? What does it mean? It's just need to be clearer.
Which section?
Okay, scrolling up, it talks about time sensitivity.
I was just wondering on that, why is it time sensitive? Is there anything in the Commission report that your group could reference to highlight that point? So if a community member is wondering why is it time sensitive, you can say, see, chapter 2 point whatever, and then they can read and understand?
No, it didn't come from there. It came from our second group. We had someone who'd been to the economic group, and they came and they said the economics are that the opportunity is soon. It's not going to be there forever. So in terms of discussion and the fact that we were saying that we needed to be slow in the process and people needed to be heard, so it needed to be a long sort of public consultation. And the comment was made that it can't be 30, 40 years of consultation because then the economic opportunity for South Australia has gone. Okay. That's why we included that in there.
Mads, can you help us here? Is there something about the time sensitivity in the report? It's in, I recall the Commissioner talking about the economic opportunity is soon. Is that in the report somewhere? No?
I don't believe there's anything about time sensitivity in the report. It's just that the changes that are occurring in the nuclear industry are happening quite quickly, and it may be that there won't be any time by the time we decide to do this for any of it to be of any value to the community, and I think we have to be aware of that. That's all.
Yeah.
Okay. So the report mentions that community, or social consent might become apparent within 6 to 18 months of a government undertaking a community consultation or engagement program. What it then says is that once you've got that social consent, when the government believes that there is sufficient social consent to take further investigations, further steps, that you would then establish a rather long process of investigation with multiple investigations running in parallel. So you'd start looking at technical citing criteria. You'd start looking at communities that might be interested to participate in a deeper learning process. You'd have deeper engagement with countries to talk about the prices that they might be willing to pay. All sorts of investigations that might take place over a decade or so.
So there's nothing specifically that says the economic opportunity is time sensitive, which is what the group has drafted. That's what we're looking for. Is there a reference in the report somewhere?
So that's 2030, that the Commission has made an assessment, or made the conservative assumption that there would be no new reactors built after 2030. So that it's just assessing the available market at the moment. In terms of the economics of proceeding, it notes that there could be competition from other countries.
Okay, all right. So that was that. All right. Okay, so let's have a look at this as a group. Where do you land? I'm changing the scale, so listen carefully. It's not hard. This side is I can live with it. Okay? This side is I can't. Right? Off you go. Where are you? I can live with it. I can't live with it. Okay. All right. Righto. So what's the key? Who wants to kick us off? We can't go through them all, but what are the key problems?
I don't think it's written for the general public, but in particular, point number 2, most of those points down there were actually covered by John Phelan earlier about how the public was going to be educated, how they can be involved, that the fact there will be multi-language coverage of this particular stuff. So to me, some of that stuff is not questions to be asked, but there's facts already given to us today.
Okay, all right. Other problems? Who's got something to add? David? Yep.
Yeah, only about the economic timing. I think it gives a sense that we're trying to rush it through or something. So I don't think we need to mention that.
Okay, who has the timing, the economic thing? All right, so if that had some work done on it.
You're talking land in 38 years.
Yeah, okay.
And they want us to do something in 18 months with all the information we're getting?
Yep. Okay, so that time-sensitive stuff is a pinch point, so needs another look. What else needs another look? What else is worrying you?
Use of existing infrastructure. I think that we should probably build infrastructure like they plan, rather than
Microphone
use
up.
railways and ports.
Put that close, really close. So, which bit are you talking about? Can you scroll
Down. Use existing infrastructure. It's in the middle of that.
So what does that mean? What does use existing infrastructure mean? It's not infrastructure?
No, it's not infrastructure. It's using community groups and bodies that are already there to consult with.
Okay.
So
Can
you're
you
going
make
to
that
like the lead
change,
bodies for different areas.
Caro? So use existing community groups.
Structures that are there to do consultation
And
with.
structures. Yep. Yeah, okay. Let's do nice natural language. What else is bothering you? Sorry, what did I do?
Is that not natural?
No, it just sounded a bit formal. I'm kind of, a bit more conversational. What else is bothering you? Why can't you live with it? So the timing, the economic timing, and that lack of clarity, the questioning. Yeah. Okay. Anna, what's the problem? No, we're having trouble with that, which is difficult. So what I'm going to suggest is that we leave this one. We can come back to this and spend a bit more time on it in the morning, if that's okay, and have another look at it. Sound like a good plan? Yes? Okay, we've got some time. So let's... Another thing? Is there another thing?
I think we can just delete that line. We're talking about very different timescales, right? We're talking about a matter of months, maybe years of consultation versus a matter of decades of actual execution. Like putting the two in the same paragraph is conflating them and really confusing, I think, for whoever reads that.
Okay, let's test that. Imagine that line was deleted. However, we need to be conscious that the economic opportunity is time sensitive. Imagine that that line is deleted. Don't actually delete it. Imagine it's deleted. Can you live with it? Can you still live with it? Okay, so it's a significant pinch point, but there's still some work to do on this one. Okay, let's have another look at this in the morning. Grab a seat and we'll go to the next one. We've got a bit of luxury of time, which is lovely. Lovely, lovely thing. Okay, Adam. Trust. Who's our trust person? Marcel. We've got 20 minutes, so we need to crack along.
Okay, I'm just going to read it out. The topic is important because changes to legislation in relation to the nuclear fuel cycle will not proceed without community trust. The implementation of many recommendations cannot proceed without changes to existing legislation. Why do we need to discuss this? The factors that promote trust or transparency needs to be built into the design of any regulatory system, thus referring to legislation, in order for it to enjoy community trust and a belief in the integrity of that regulation system. And also, we have a choice. We really discussed this a lot. We had longer sentences, shorter sentences, longer descriptive sentences, and we ended up saying we have a choice. And then we need to decide as a state whether we accept any moral or ethical obligations to the world as a major producer of uranium. Moral and ethical considerations are central to the ownership and integrity of whatever decision the people of our great state makes. For example, the international principle that the society that generates the waste is responsible for managing it. And then Section 13 of the Nuclear Waste Storage Facility Prohibition Act 2000 currently prohibits public money from being spent in the construction of a nuclear waste storage facility. We had some discussion in relation to that act was changed in May for us to actually exist as we are now. To community consultation at pivotal points in any nuclear project should be identified as gateways for community decision making. These gateways must provide opportunities for community to provide a deliberative process for the gate to remain open or be closed. This enables the community to have a say in all aspects of the process and ensures that shifts in community sentiment are included and reflected in the project design. Any regulatory regime must have robust structures to reflect the values and priorities of our citizens. The community needs to discuss a system that is responsive to community concerns in a way that is transparent and accountable to the community. The community needs to discuss principles of independence that promote community confidence, accountability and safety. These specific measures for further discussion may include strong whistleblower protection and initiatives designed to reflect diversity of our community in any monitoring, decision-making body or watchdog, any decision-making or watchdog body. And then the question was, that remained, the difference between low to medium Australian origin waste versus what we're discussing is international high-level international waste.
Okay, before we open it for questions, I'm going to ask you to jump up. Over there is I can live with it. Here is I can't. Let's go. Okay, Aramis has a question. Yeah, it's on.
Can I just have some clarification on the international principles that society on that example?
Okay, the international principles, we had a discussion about that in that it specifically states in the report that the community that generates the waste is responsible for the waste. Then Professor, what was his name? I can't remember. Professor Hayden Manning discussed what happened about 40 years ago in the 70s, where a report in relation to the Ranger report, I think it was referenced, where it was stated in that report that as the producer of the product, we have a moral and ethical obligation to manage it. That's been, as what Professor Hayden Manning said, was kind of put to the side ever since. It was raised and tabled in that report and has not been referenced really moving forward. That's why we brought it in.
So like saying that we should take the waste back because we sell the uranium.
Just grab a mic, Jenny.
My interpretation said that of what he said was that it had been discussed as to whether or not we did have a moral obligation or an ethical obligation, not that we did or that we didn't. So it's always been on the table, and because it's been on the table, then perhaps we do.
I think they'll just be digging ourselves a hole here, and that could only be discussed on an international level.
So what would help you live with it? What would help you live with it?
We can't do it as a state or as Australia in changing something like that. It has to be international.
Yeah, okay. So you remove it to help you live with it?
Yeah, I was wondering whether just to change the word principle in that sentence.
Okay, so there's a suggestion to change the word principle to...
Because he mentioned that there have been those discussions, and assumptions, yeah.
International assumptions? Discussions?
The Royal Commission report uses that word. It says in the Royal Commission report, the international principle. They call it that.
Okay, so that's a pinch point. Any other pinch points? What do you got? Chris, why can't you live with it?
I think what it says is the exact opposite of what people are trying to say. Surely the society that generates waste are the people with nuclear reactors that produce the waste. We don't. It's Germany, France, Finland, or whatever. If this says what I think people wanted to say, is the principle that the society that produces uranium is responsible for managing nuclear waste.
The principle in the Royal Commission report says the international principle is that the society that generates the waste from using the nuclear fuel in their nuclear reactor to generate electricity is responsible for the waste from that nuclear reactor.
That's not us.
That's not us. So
that's not us.
The example.
So Germany's responsible for
Germany's waste, and Sweden's responsible for Sweden's, and USA.
What we're saying is this, as a country, we have a choice. As a state, we have a choice. One choice is we take either the international principle, which is whoever generates the waste keeps it, or do we have a moral ethical stance that says because we export a lot of uranium, should we in fact be involved in the nuclear fuel cycle and take the spent fuel rods back? That's what we're saying is the choice. Yeah. And then if whatever one of those choices we decide, if we decide the yes choice, then we need to do something about Section 13, which covers the legislation part.
Okay, so that needs a reword and change.
So that's really the choice.
Can I suggest that tomorrow when we have another look at it that you're part of that rewording? Okay, problems down here are a bit wordy and not sort of easy to understand. Some nods, you guys, nodding on that. Yep, okay, so maybe needs a bit of finessing. Nothing else? Okay. Another pinch point, what is it?
We're talking about trust, and the legislation got changed in May. I didn't hear anything about it, and it was only done in 2000, 16 years ago. So we changed the legislation again. Does it mean in another 10 years? What confidence do we have in legislation? Confidence do we have in legislation? Because it changes.
Yeah, okay. All right. Okay, so this one needs a bit more work. Just remember, we've got time, the ability to draft it. We're not handing it to the Premier in the next half an hour, which is a great thing. So
I've just got a message from Ian that we're actually able to print you a copy of this to take home tonight, to have a look at and reflect upon. And then when we come back tomorrow, we're going to get it, slam it right. Okay? Yes?
Is this supposed to be confidential, or can we discuss it with friends and family, the draft?
It's being live streamed at the moment, so go your hardest. Okay, grab a seat. Let's do the last one, which is safety. Safety. Who's the safety guru? Now I've got 25 microphones. Who wants it? Safety? Come on. Who is it, Mel? Give me someone. Okay. Just rest the mic on your chin, Stan.
Sorry, I've been speaking too much in this. All right, we also ran out of time, so be gentle. So we were looking at safety and security. We've mainly got sort of bullet points. This is important because the breadth of the consequences, so if something goes wrong, it can go wrong far and wide. Because of the potential human cost, if something goes wrong. There's someone will have to clarify what social dimension to risk. No, you don't remember. Belinda, do you remember?
Oh, I can't run that fast in my big high boots. If I fall over, it'll be entertaining TV, won't it?
It was raised in one of the sessions this morning that there is also a need to consider the social impact to any risks associated with the whole cycle and consequences.
Okay.
That was one of the things that I'd written down.
Okay.
It was
Okay,
one of the...
might need a bit of fleshing out. Yep.
Sure. I think there might be some overlap between bits and pieces as well. The timescales, so we're talking about very long timescales, so safety becomes quite important there. Balancing safety with economic gains, at what point do the risks outweigh the potential benefits? The question of safety is fundamental to whether we actually proceed with this whole process. I'm sure that no one would disagree with the idea that if it's not safe, we shouldn't do it. Risks in context. So understanding what the risks are for the activities that are being discussed. There was a fair bit of discussion about things like Chernobyl and Fukushima and where the comparisons are valid and where they are not, which sort of informs the discussion about safety. Categories of risk. So again, sort of describing how risks are associated with the different processes, and importantly, the point of no return. So there's a point at which, when we've made a decision or we've started doing something, where we can't turn back. So that's quite important to look at. So we recommend the community to discuss the following themes: geology and seismic stability. Because it is important that a geologically stable area is selected for the potential site, specifically referencing Finding 72 and Appendix I. How international standards and a national regulator would work, particularly in light of failures that have happened here and abroad. So in our discussions we had people raising the point that things have gone wrong, so that needs to inform how a regulator is formed in Australia if we were to go ahead. And Chapter 9, the findings marked up there, discuss that. Environmental impacts, because the decisions made now to proceed or not proceed will directly impact the environment beyond the lifetime of the people making the decisions. The report contains some information about environmental impact, but further impacts could be explored. Flora and fauna was something that came up in our discussions that wasn't really something we could find in the report. Specific risks identified with each stage of the fuel cycle. So that was more something that we wanted to flesh out, where we discuss what risks are involved with mining, refinement, power generation and storage, just so there's context. The topic of human safety and impacts to health. So I think that's fair to say mainly how radiation impacts people. The security of the waste during transport and the security of storage facilities to minimise hazards and impacts on the environment and human health. So discussing things like terrorism or accidents, negligence, that sort of thing. And how the timelines and sequencing of events relate to safety, or how safety is covered off in the plans that we have. We still have questions about the timelines surrounding the research and site scoping. The cost of information gain, I think the cost of doing the geological surveys, is that point? Yep. We were still a little bit uncertain about the consequences of disasters. In the meetings it was pretty clear that it's kind of hard to quantify that. So there is a lot of uncertainty there. We're also a little bit unsure because there was no mention of, say, a war type situation, and what future threats might eventuate from us undertaking this activity.
Okay. All right. So probably needs a little bit more fleshing out, but in general, where are you thinking? So down that side, I'm exhausted now, is I can live with it, and this side is I can't. Last time for the day. Get to do it tomorrow as well. So much fun. So where I am is I cannot live with it. Okie doke. Belinda, didn't you write it? Belinda wrote it. Okay, filled with confidence. Okay, let's get some new voices. What's the pinch point? Close. Or you can hand it over if you don't want to talk. Okay, pinch point?
Just for me, it's, I guess, a bit incomplete to be
Yeah,
happy with. There's a lot of discussion outside the dot points.
Yeah. Okay, so needs some more work. If it had more work, we'll have another go. So lots of nods. Something new, something different?
In this morning's discussion in the safety section, it was quite clear at times the actual amount of safety that was discussed. And yet most of that document talks about risks, you know, deaths and all that sort of thing. Well, if you remember back to last weekend, one of the actual experts told us how many deaths there'd been in the nuclear industry over the last 20 or 30 years. Forgetting Chernobyl and Fukushima and Maralinga, which are not relevant at all to the discussions, there's been virtually none. So to me, that's against what a lot of the stuff that was said this morning.
Okay, so some stuff to work on. Stan?
Just to respond to that, we did have a point in there about putting risks in context, and that I think is a very important point from our group. Obviously, the document's not complete.
So it might be worth fleshing those out.
Yeah, I'm not going to stand here and pretend that's finished. It's not. You're quite right with that criticism.
Okay. Caroline?
Just for me, it's about actually narrowing it down to storage, because that's in fact what we're talking about. Because you're asking for specific risks around mining, refinement, etc. But in fact, we're talking about storage.
We're talking about mining as well. We're talking about transportation as well.
The whole fuel cycle. Okay. All right, Tam?
Daryl reflected a lot of my opinion, actually. If we are supposed to be summarising the report, that's still a lot of questions and a lot of concern, not really talking about the investigations that were made in regards to the safety issues.
Yep.
And I think out of the previous fortnight's weekend, safety seemed to be one of the subjects and concerns that nearly every single one of us had. So I'd like to think that this is one of the most important things that we need to put across to the every person.
Okay.
So I think it needs
So
a
it
hell of a
needs
lot more
a bit more work.
clarification. Yeah.
At the moment, only the economics people are going home tonight. Anna, did you have anything else? Anything else? Anything else? Okay, sorry, Millicent. Put it nice and close.
I believe that any report
Closer.
on safety...
Really close,
I
yeah.
believe that any document on safety should include relative risk. In other words, cars, fires, terrorism, so you can sort of look at it in perspective with the other things we live with in our lives.
Yeah, okay. All right, good point. So that one needs a bit more work, but well done, guys. As a, you know, while you're looking at some of the things we can't live with, make sure you look at, you know, other people who are really generally happy. Okay, grab a seat. I think the team are just about to hit the print button. So if you can wait 10 minutes, we'll have a copy for you to take home. I'll put it on Basecamp as well. So there's a little bit of tidying up that I need to do on the economics one because there was some stuff there that didn't need to be there. Ian, did you have a comment?
Yeah. So hopefully you get a sense. This is the reason you do a rough draft. This is why it's not 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. And this is the night where you get homework. This is where we push back. Because as I sat there, I pictured myself sitting in a cafe down the road thinking, what are you telling me? Tie it back to the Royal Commission report, tell me in plain English. And you're a lot of the way there, but you just kind of need to push that test. Can I give it to anyone? Just, I need you to apply that test because that's what this ties back to. And you've done it.
Yes, we can email it to you.
And yeah, it'll go Basecamp live in 10, 15 minutes.
Yep.
But that's really the test to apply as you look at that. Can you give this to whoever you're living with at home? Can you give it to a neighbour? And you're part of the way there, but keep applying that plain English test. And as you do, think, I sat there as a layperson and comments were made and I thought, I wonder if the Royal Commission says that or says the opposite. Tell me if it's supportive or opposing. Either way is fine. Just make that link and you start to make that case compellingly. I hope you take away a strong sense of you've actually started to prioritise really well. Use the time that you have overnight to make those links. And if you can come in having done one little piece of homework, you help all 50 people around the room. Dolce?
If we could put it in plain English, I'm not talking about for us that we know how to read and write in English. I'm talking about this is for the community. They need to be able to read what we're showing them. Plain English. There are some words there very... Ooh.
I think like you just said, when we do go home, you can basically give it to your wife, husband or anything, read that without telling them anything, because just assume they haven't heard any of the stuff we've heard the last weekend. Do they understand it? They may go, what the hell are you talking about there? And then you're like, all right, that doesn't make sense. And they'll be able to pick up clearly what makes sense and what doesn't.
Yeah, good idea, test it. So what we'll do, sorry Ian, were you done?
No.
Oh,
that's
okay.
that's actually, no, I am done because
Okay,
you've actually ended on the point I wanted to live with.
Yeah, good.
Live with. It's test it. It really has to be a lay reader who picks this up. Don't assume. And you're actually close having this working draft, so use it. And the stress test we will apply is I'm going to sit there and look at you like a goof half the day tomorrow, say, so is that in the report or not? Do you agree with it or not? Are you saying the same or the opposite? You're halfway there. So look at the parts where you get it right and reflect on the parts where your partner is looking at you like, what on earth have you written here? I don't understand.
Okay.
10 minutes, we'll have your print.
Okay, beautiful. So we're just tidying up some bits and pieces because in the frantic mail drop, there was some bits that shouldn't have been in there. And Adam, Patrick's just coming over as well to tidy up some bits. So I want you to just pause for a minute. Pause for a minute and think, right there. Think about how far you've come today. So this is a 320-page report. You've spent, 2.5, 3 days trying to understand it,
digest it and make it into something that's clear. And I think you've done a cracking job. So give yourselves a round of applause. Now what you need to do is you need to stand up. Stand up. Take one step sort of into the woods of the middle. Nice big step. Turn to the left. Pat the person in front of you on the back. Give them a pat on the back. Well done, jurors. Turn around. Do it the other way. Pat on the back. Pat on the back. High-fiving. Okay. All right. So well done. We'll see you tomorrow morning at 9:30 for a 9:30 start. We're going to change. We need to change things a bit because we need to spend some more time in these. But fantastic job. Travel safely home, and we'll see you in the morning.